Hello, with me is Judge John McClellan Marshall from Texas, honorary professor of the University of UMCS. Welcome in our TV.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a great honor to have you in our TV. And we will be talking about freedoms. And which freedom would you consider, sir, to be the most important of the system of the United States?
I think really the most important is probably freedom of speech, because everything else grows from that. The ability to express yourself freely is important in academic life. It's important in public life. Now, this is not to say that you can't be offensive. Yeah, you can be offensive. Freedom of speech means the freedom to say things that even the majority are going to disagree with, but you still have the right to say them. That's something that a lot of people have difficulty with. They feel like, no, you only have the freedom to say what I will agree with. And if you say something else, then you don't really have the right to say it. And that's, as I'm sure you're well aware, that's what the Nazis did. The Nazis suppressed anybody who did not agree with them. And if you said something that disagreed, they'd put you in jail. Nowadays in the United States, we have a lot of people saying a lot of things, some of which are being very offensive, but they still have the right to say them. And it's an interesting time. Over the years, there has been suppression of freedom of speech in the United States. And, you know, if you are accused of being a communist, then what you say is not permissible. You're just guilty as charged. And nowadays, if someone accuses you of being a racist, you're guilty. And so you can't say, no, I'm not a racist. Nobody will believe you. But they have the right to say it, and you have the right to say, no, you're a liar.
Okay, and I would like you also ask about the freedom of religion and how it connects with freedom of speech.
Freedom of religion is very closely related because there are many different belief sets in the United States, for example, well, throughout the world. And the history of the United States was that religious toleration was built in to American history very early on, with the Pilgrims coming in 1620. Then you have the colony of Maryland for the Roman Catholics, Pennsylvania for the Quakers, that sort of thing. And so religious freedom has been built into American society from the very beginning, along with freedom of speech. So that toleration is supposed to extend to all religious groups. And I would say, generally speaking, it does. In the United States, there have been cases. How far does it go? One interesting case years ago, not too long ago actually, I guess now about 40 years ago, a group of American Indians were smoking peyote, which is a narcotic. And the police arrested them for possession of narcotics. And they took the case to the Supreme Court. And they said to the Supreme Court, this is part of our religious practice. And they proved it to the court, and the court said, okay, if you are a Native American, Indian, and you are part of this particular religious belief system, smoking peyote is permissible. Of course, also, you have built into the law, as a routine matter, what's called the priest penitent privilege. If I go to a priest to confess that I've committed a crime, that priest cannot say to anybody that he knows about that. If, on the other hand, if I go and tell a pastor, I'm going to kill him, I'm going to kill this person, that's in the future. And the pastor would have a duty to report that to the police. So,
is it fair? Is it fair?
Oh, I think so. Because the pastor, now, the pastor should report it to the police to protect the person who might be on the verge of getting killed. But the potential killer doesn't have the right to depend upon the silence of the pastor. So this relationship between a member of the congregation and the pastor is a very special one when it comes to freedom of speech and the protection of religion for the speech that you're giving.
Okay, I would like to ask you about how important is freedom of speech and also freedom of religion to a democratic system?
I would have to say that a democratic system such as we have in the United States really relies upon freedom of speech and secondarily relies upon freedom of religion. In the Declaration of Independence, it speaks specifically to the rights that are given to the people by divine providence. Well, that's an acknowledgement that God is kind of important. And if life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are to be protected by the government, then the government needs to be alert to that responsibility. And so freedom of religion and governmental authority and so forth are all interrelated. And freedom of speech becomes important because as a candidate for public office, I have to be able to tell people what I plan to do if I'm elected, and that sort of thing. And people have the right to ask me questions. Well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I have the responsibility to answer those questions. I can't just say, oh, well, next question, you know. Okay,
have you heard, sir, that in Poland there is 196th article of the Penal Code, which provides up to 2 years in prison for religious feelings. And how do you assess that?
And the crime is what?
I can read this article. Whoever offends the religious feelings of other persons by publicly insulting an object of religious worship or a place designated for public religious ceremonies is liable to pay a fine, have their liberty limited, or be deprived of their liberty for a period up to 2 years for religious feelings.
That would not be constitutional in the United States, because even if you are offending the Archbishop of Washington or the Archbishop of New York. And even if you say, I think the Archbishop of New York is an idiot, that might be offensive. And under your law, that could lead to prison or fine or whatever. In America, no. I have the right to say that about any religious official. I have the right to say that all Mormons are stupid. I don't believe that. I have some good friends who are Mormons. I could say all Catholics are bad people, you know. They're all pedophiles, you know. No. You can say that. You can't be prosecuted for it.
And have you heard, sir, that in Poland a Protestant pastor has a trial for criticizing Catholic dogmas, for example, for calling Fatima apparition a phantom or something, or for example, calling Catholic sacraments hocus pocus for these things?
As I say, in the United States, you could say that, and there would be no problem. I'm a little surprised that in Poland, that would be a criminal offense. Offending people by what you say is not the same as hitting them. In the United States, we have a saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. And so, I mean, I've had people call me stupid to my face. You know, how can you be so stupid and believe that? Well, it's my right to believe that. And it's your right to say I'm stupid. Let's go have a cup of coffee. I think it's very important to keep a sense of humor about things. The problem is, historically, and I'm not saying in Poland necessarily, but when you condemn a particular series of thoughts or words, you drive them underground. The Nazis experienced this. The Nazis suppressed Thomas Mann, Hermann Hesse, to Goethe to some extent. And these writers were writing about freedom of thought and so forth. Well, the Nazis pushed it underground, and so the intellectuals who had read those books and so forth, they became part of the anti-Nazi resistance that eventually overthrew the Nazi regime with some help from the Allies. But nonetheless, I think the question becomes, if you say that you can't say this, how much farther does it go before all of a sudden I can't say anything?
And we have a military alliance with the United States, but do we have a civilizational community when such things happen in Poland?
I think that the United States attitude is the Polish people can make laws that suit them based on their history. And it's not the position of the United States to say, you're wrong. And if someone violates Polish law, the Polish courts take care of it. It's not the job of the United States government to say, this person should be turned loose. You should not do that, or else the United States won't be your friend anymore. You know, no.
Okay, and the last question, how do you feel here in Poland, and what would you like to say to Poles?
Well, I feel very much at home here. I've been coming to Poland now for 30 years. And as I tell my friends in the United States, okay, the Polish people are very friendly, very hospitable. The food is great. The vodka is delicious. But I think that, of course, I'm a guest in your country. But I do think that the link between Poland and the United States is very close. It's exceptionally close. Going back all the way to the American Revolution with Kosciuszko and Pawłowski and so forth that participated in the American Revolution, and then of course Kosciuszko came back to Poland and brought with him, I think, some of the ideals that he had learned in the United States. And so there is a kinship that I feel when I come to Poland, a feeling of welcome, and that in fact, when the driver was bringing me up to the hotel, I said, mój dom, you know, because I've been staying at that hotel for years, and Poland is really very much a second home to me and my family. And we enjoy the Polish people and enjoy coming here. I wish, and in fact, I encourage a lot of my friends who want to come to Europe. I say, look, if you want to go to France, that's fine, but go to Poland. You will see palaces, museums, sites in the cities that are the equivalent of anything you would find in France or Germany or England. They're all there. And the history here is very rich. And as I say, I enjoy it. And I think, and my friends who come over here very much enjoy it also. The lawyers who come and participate in this course that I teach, they all want to come back.
Great. And would you like to tell something to Poles concerning the freedom of speech?
I would say that, first of all, understand that freedom of speech is a privilege and it's a right in the American Constitution. But like all of the rights, it has to be exercised responsibly. Now, it's true. I could give a speech that would be very offensive to a lot of people in Poland. Not necessarily violating your law, but it would just be offensive. Is that permitted? Yes. Is it polite? No. Polite is important. And I believe in being polite. So, you know, I try to be careful what I say because I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm not going to let what you hear restrain what I say.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. With me was Judge John McClellan Marshall from Texas. Thank you very much. And the honorary professor of the University of UMCS. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.